Hi everyone, Jack Willard here. The title of our video, The Lincoln Project is in a Tizzy. I have to say at the outset that this topic is outside the scope of my core audience. Most of my 9,900 subscribers didn't come here for this kind of political analysis necessarily. It might appeal to some of my audience. We're hoping to meet some new friends here that does know about the Lincoln Project, and I'm sure we'll upset a few of them as well. I had no plans to ever do a video on the Lincoln Project. In fact, I really didn't know about it a few weeks ago. I did know their co-founder. I'll talk about that in a second. But a few weeks ago, I subscribed to Clinton Jaws. Yes, his name is Clinton Jaws right here on YouTube. And what he does is he tries to root out the blatant BS spouted often by progressives, alleged Democrats, alleged Republicans, rhinos, what have you. And obviously on election night 2024, there was a plethora of material. So he has videos up here on YouTube where he covers election night coverage on CBS, and then in another video, NBC, MSNBC, ABC, CNN, NPR. That was fun. And also the BBC, very entertaining over there. And he's in a box on the screen on his videos, and sometimes he will stop the clip and he will comment. He will make some comments. Other times he will just talk over the clip as it continues to run, pointing out the inaccuracies, the fabrications, the what he would say lies, the nonsense that he would probably feel, and I would probably feel, they kind of knew was not, let's say, necessarily accurate. Or they should have known. Either way. So I've been watching that, the meltdowns, because they come on at the beginning, these usually often young people, and they're full of optimism that Kamala Harris is going to win by a sizable margin. She's going to be the 47th president of the United States. Now, to create this illusion, they had to ignore a ton of past history, facts. They had to delude themselves into thinking that she had run a successful campaign and that people loved her. Well, the first time she ran for president, she didn't make it to the first primary. Tulsi Gabbard, God bless her heart, our intelligence director, let America know in a debate exactly who Kamala Harris was. And she wasn't prepared for that. But surprisingly, she got worse when Joe Biden was finally pushed out by Pelosi and Obama, and she had 100 days to run a campaign for the presidency. Surprisingly, she was worse the second time around. If you look back to when she was a prosecutor in California, and she wasn't a good one, but if you look back to some of the cross-examination that she did, she was pretty fast and pretty sharp and pretty effective sometimes. Overall, her performance as a prosecutor was terrible, but she had her moments, and occasionally she seemed competent. But that never occurred during the 100 days. Her word salads, her fear of taking questions from the media, her crowd size, which is very important to Trump. Um, so I didn't know about the Lincoln Project, but I had heard and seen uh, the co-founder, board member, Rick Wilson, and we'll go to their own website to hear him described in his own words. Rick Wilson is a renowned political strategist, infamous ad maker, writer, speaker, and political commentator. In December 2019, Rick co-founded the Lincoln Project, a political action committee whose goal is to hold accountable those who would violate their oaths to the Constitution and would place their loyalty to others before their loyalty to the American people and democracy. I have to stop for a second. Joseph R. Biden, in my opinion, and the opinion of many others, is the personification of someone who did just that. Rick has authored 2 New York Times bestsellers. His first book, Everything Trump Touches Dies, shot to #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. His second book, Running Against the Devil, A Plot to Save America from Trump and Democrats from Themselves, was released on January 14th to rave reviews and opened at #4 on the New York Times bestseller list. Rick has written for The Washington Post, Politico, Rolling Stone, The Hill, London Spectator, and others. He has appeared with his unique insights on CNN, MSNBC, NPR, and American and international news national outlets. He's a frequent guest on Real Time with Bill Maher. And I have seen him from time to time, so I did know who Rick Wilson was. I did not know that he was a 30-year veteran of national Republican politics. Rick got his start in the 1988 presidential campaign of George Herbert Walker Bush. He produced groundbreaking political advertising and providing winning strategic counsel to winning political candidates. So like Nicole Wallace from MSNBC, I guess you could say he was a Republican. A rhino, many of us would say, but nevertheless a Republican. What's so strange about people like Rick Wilson and Nicole Wallace, and I really used to like Nicole Wallace, is that if there was ever a time when you could say, okay, I don't like Trump, but I have to pick the lesser of two evils, if there was ever a time when you would employ that tactic, it should have been in the 2016 election and the 2024 election. If you ever understood Republican principles, and if you had any ability to ascertain what the opposing candidate was, this should have been the time in 2016 and even more so in 2024, because, you know, many of us were fooled by Joe Biden. Amtrak Joe. Just a everyday blue collar lover guy from Scranton, or is it Delaware? I like Joe Biden. I didn't know that he was accumulating wealth as a first a senator for many decades. Ted Kennedy described him when asked, who is the dumbest senator. Who is the dumbest senator? And he said, well, that would have to be Joe. That would have to be Joe. Wasn't talking about Joe Manchin, you know. But during his time in the Senate and then as the vice presidential candidate, he appears, and there's plenty of evidence to back it up. Books have been written on it now, to be accumulating wealth through influence peddling. Hunter Biden, who probably couldn't run a Hardee's, was on the board in the Ukraine and China. The reason, he was representing what they would call the big guy. The big guy. So, when we talk about the Constitution being under threat, the 4 years of the Biden administration is the best example I've ever seen in my lifetime. First of all, opening the borders wide. That includes to rapists, killers, and to people that just want to rob America blind, along with some great people that were just looking for a better life. We understand that. But there was so much more. There was so much more. Joe Biden introduced us to lawfare, where you try to put your political opponent in jail, where you take a bookkeeping error, a misdemeanor from the accountant, Donald Trump's accountant, expired. The expiration date had run out, and you turn that into 34 felonies. I'm talking about a bookkeeping error concerning the whole Stormy Daniels affair. It's not a crime to pay someone to keep their mouth shut, but a bookkeeping error on how the payment was made was turned into 34 felonies. The determination was get Trump at any cost. And he had a Justice Department that would back that up, an FBI that would back that up. And what we saw unfold was an assault on the Constitution. Rick Wilson, like so many rhinos, if you want to call them that, like to cite the insurrection. Many have said it wasn't an insurrection. If it was an insurrection, it was the worst planned insurrection of all times. Donald Trump gave a speech. He probably shouldn't have given it that day, but he did. And he was clear, march to the Capitol patriotically and peacefully. But of course, that is always left out. That is always left out. If it doesn't fit what you're trying to do, leave it out or change it. So, what occurred was a relatively small amount of people breached the Capitol. Anyone that put their hands on a police officer, assaulted a police officer, or went in to the Capitol building deserved to go to jail. But they did a long stretch of time for that. First, they told us police officers were murdered. A blatant lie. One police officer went home with a history of health problems and at some point had a health crisis and passed away. The one who was murdered was Ashley Babbitt, a veteran who had her head halfway in the window. Some say she was trying to keep people from going in. But she had a family, and others were just going in, and they were, in some cases, being ushered in by Capitol Police inside. Very odd. Very odd. And one lone cop shot her in the head. That's the act of murder at the Capitol building on January 6th. That's the one act of murder. So, as President Trump said when he was reelected and became the 47th president of the United States, they have all done a significant amount of time. And he pardoned them, and that was the right thing to do. Anyone that did put their hands on a police officer that day had already served years in prison, and I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. But there were people that were charged that weren't even in Washington, D.C., and then there were agitators in the crowd that never got charged at all. The whole thing stinks. But you don't breach the Capitol. You don't force your way inside. You don't threaten the lawmakers inside. Most of them didn't do that. They were just there for a look-see, but they had no business doing it, and they served time as they should have. So I tuned in this broadcast with Clinton Jaws, and he was playing excerpts from the Lincoln Project's predictions for the 2024 election, just a few days before the November 5th election. Rick had a panel of himself and three others. I don't know the other three gentlemen, all white gentlemen. And they couldn't have been more positive for Kamala Harris. They were saying, the Democrats have knocked on a lot more doors than the Republicans. Now, they know that crowd size is very important to Donald Trump, and so they went after that. Rick was saying that there was a dismal crowd in Michigan. Well, you think that might be, you might take that at face value because Michigan has given us some of the worst squad members, etc. Gretchen Whitmer is the governor there. So you might think, oh, yeah, he was on the decline. But, of course, Clinton Jaws rolled in. He stopped the tape there of their program, and he rolled in footage of the Michigan rally. It was packed to the rafters. The people, the enthusiasm was incredible. You would have thought that Taylor Swift was going to do a concert. It was incredible. The smiles, the determination. They saw before them the man that took a bullet for democracy. So when Rick talks about the organization being dedicated to preserving the Constitution, well, I would certainly trust the analysis of Mark Levin over the Lincoln Project. Because as I say, Joseph R. Biden, in my opinion, did so much to hurt the Constitution, and he opened the borders wide. Some people just wanted a better life. You got to come in legally. It's a real problem when everybody wants to come to America. We can't have whole countries moving over here. It's just not feasible. The United States is already so many trillions of dollars in debt. It's a problem. We want immigrants, but it has to be legally, and there has to be a quota, because you have to put America first. But Rick Wilson talks about the MAGA movement. First of all, it's MAGA. MAGA. And that simply means, as you know, make America great again. Because even if you were Harriet Tubman, Stevie Wonder, certainly, you could tell that in the 4 years of the Biden administration, America went into serious decline. The economy tanked, violence on the streets, riots on the street, while the fake news legacy media was saying that it was mostly peaceful. As behind, and I'm talking about Ali Belshi here, as behind Ali Belshi was flames consuming buildings and rioting going on. Don't look at that man behind the curtain. Pay no attention to him. But of course, America is not that stupid. So what happened on November 5th, but really way before, is the people that realized America was in a complete nosedive determined that they would show up and support candidate, former President Trump. Joe Biden said that the MAGA people were garbage. What was it, a week or two before the election? Oh, thank you for saying that. Thank you, Joe Biden, for saying that. That lit a fire under. No one was going to keep us from the polls. No one was going to keep us from the polls. I stood in a line of about 150 people in this small city, and people all over the country did that. Some of us believe that God heard the prayers that came forth from these people and gave us favor. We know that Donald Trump is a flawed man. He likes to say things like he can end the war in one day and this and that. And of course, when you get in there, no matter who the candidate is, it's always going to be more difficult, and there's going to be rough spots around the world. As I do this video right now for 2 days in a row, the stock market doing very poorly. If President Trump is not emphatic to say there's no way there could be a recession, a temporary recession, then Wall Street gets very nervous. Sometimes you wish that they were just locked in a room and just were focused on making money, But as I do this video, I see a lot more green, and I'm doing this in the early morning hours. I see a lot more green than I've seen in the last 2 days, so maybe the third day will be better than they expect. But there has to be some rough spots when you're trying to fix 4 years of bedlam, 4 years of the most reckless spending we've ever seen. The big lie, one of the big lies, is that Trump wanted to be president in 2016, and now when he ran in the 2024 election, was to get richer and to make his friends, the millionaires and billionaires, richer. It's nonsense. He's losing money. Elon Musk is losing money. Now they're going after the dealerships. They used to love Elon Musk. Now they hate him, and he's got a lot of death threats. It's not a plus. It's not a plus for him. But he loves America. And when he saw Trump get shot in Butler, Pennsylvania, and stand up, raise his fist, and say, fight, 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 he knew that was the president for him. And so did many of us, many millions. And we see what the progressives are like. We see what the squad are like. President Trump just gave his speech, a joint session of Congress speech. And it was like, under the leadership of Joaquin Jeffries. It was as if we were watching an attempt to make the Democratic Party a minor party with no future. Right now, at this moment in time, they're going to lose badly in the midterms. Most of those people that sat there, even when a 13-year-old boy was given Secret Service credentials, survived brain cancer so far. When the sister and mother of Laken Riley, who was brutally murdered by an illegal immigrant, when they got up with tears in their eyes, and those progressive Democrats just sat there, you would think that with Hakeem Jeffries that he would have had a survival mode and that he would have got up, faced them, and applauded, and some of the others may have done that as well. But he's not a leader in any way, shape, or form. To think that people were going to embrace what we have seen in the Senate and the Congress in the last 4 years, that we were going to embrace that. Kamala Harris, the first time she ran for president, didn't make it to the first primary. She was rejected. Tulsi Gabbard, one of my heroes, who first she left the Democratic Party, became an independent, and then a Republican. The old saying, if you don't become a Democrat by age 30, you don't have a heart. If you don't become a Republican by age 40, you don't have a brain. That has shown itself to be true. But you do want to be a compassionate conservative. I don't want grandma, who's been in this country for 50 years, being thrown out. I don't want that. I think it has to be responsible. Obviously, there are seasonal workers that come over here, and they need good housing, good wage, and what have you. I believe anybody that's in prison, including in Gitmo, needs to be treated fairly, humanely. They took cameras into Gitmo and they showed the facilities and clean bed and what have you, clean facilities in general. You don't treat them like they're, well, you wouldn't treat a dog that way, so you shouldn't treat a human being that way. If they're violent and dangerous, you have to put them in solitary. You don't have much choice. They make that choice to put themselves in solitary. So I just watched these four gentlemen, thanks to Clinton Jaws showing clips, try to knock down everything Trump had said and done and make it seem like his candidacy was a complete failure. They talked about the Madison Square Garden rally. Now, some comedian, if you could even call him that, in the afternoon time at the Madison Square Garden rally, made some very offensive comments about Puerto Rico. And Trump didn't know anything about that, of course, but they tried to tie it to Trump, whereas the Puerto Rican people, many of them love Trump. And the Spanish vote was strong. The Latino vote was strong. The black youth vote was strong. And the female vote was much stronger. So here it comes election night, and all the predictions that the Lincoln Project made are turning to ashes. And he wins all the swing states. He wins the popular vote. And so they are made to look like complete fools. And so I didn't see the video that followed immediately after that. At least I don't think I did. The video I saw independently from Clinton Jaws was the video from Rick Wilson, where he's saying, if you voted for President Trump, you don't have a right to be surprised when this happens and that happens. And, of course, the old line about they're just trying to make the rich richer, when the Trump tax credits benefit the middle class. They're trying to hold on to them. So many things that he wants to do for the middle class. He's got plenty of money. So does his family. So does Elon Musk. Elon Musk is losing money by being involved in Doge. And the amount of wasted fraud that has been exposed You would think they would be reasonable and say, yeah, that's crazy. That's batshit crazy. No, no, they double down and they talk about the people that are going to be fired that work in these foundations and what have you. I think you have to be careful. You have to look at every single situation and see, is it something that's good or bad? You don't want to take away people's health care. You don't want to, you want to make Medicare and Medicaid stronger, but you don't want to have someone spend a lifetime on Medicaid when they have a lot of potential, but it's just easier to not work, to not work. But the money that has gone, the foreign aid that has gone from to projects like $20 million to fund a woke version of Sesame Street in Iraq, and billions of dollars to Stephanie Abrams, who never admitted that she lost the election herself in Georgia, to try to force people to have electric stoves in their homes. Give them a free one. See how it works in this small town. Say, here, you can have a free electric stove. And that leads to, of course, you talk about authoritarianism. The idea that you would be forced to drive an electric car, that this would stop all the problems. When we know that's not true, we know that nuclear energy is used in those car batteries. Imagine charging stations being overwhelmed if everyone was driving an electric car. You can't do long trips anymore. You'd be running out of juice in a big traffic jam and what have you. People need to have a choice. A hybrid is a good choice. For example, both gas and the power to be electric. I understand that. I think that's good, but it has to be the choice of the people. So what we saw during the Biden administration was diminishing rights, putting 80-year-old grandmas in prison because they stood in front of an abortion clinic with a sign. We saw all kinds of abuse of people's rights during the 4 years of the Biden administration. And so we saw Kamala Harris, who was totally exposed by Tulsi Gabbard in a debate the first time she ran for president. Tulsi explained exactly who Kamala was, including when she was a district attorney and a senator. And now, with 100 days to do a campaign after Obama and Nancy Pelosi put the pressure on Joe Biden to decide not to run for re-election, we saw a mess of a campaign. Yet the Lincoln Project boys tried to make it seem all rosy, like we're all so stupid. But we already had purposed in our minds, and we love what we're seeing. Not everything. There's no president that you agree with everything. But they took what was a bookkeeping error on the part of Donald Trump's accountant. This is in regards to the payment to Stormy Daniels. And paying someone to keep their mouth shut is not a crime. Not a crime, but the accountant put the expense in the wrong column, but the statute of limitations had expired on what was a misdemeanor. And then D.A. Bragg came along and turned that in with help to 34 felonies. Then the whole Jack Smith thing. We saw this over and over. Fannie Willis. We saw this over and over again. We saw an FBI. We saw Merrick Garland, who I thought at one time, I was kind of sorry he didn't become a Supreme Court justice. I thought, oh, he seems like a nice man. You got to be real careful, because I thought the same about Uncle Joe, Amtrak Joe. And all this time, He was accumulating wealth and would end up buying two multi-million-dollar beach houses. Hunter Biden on the payroll in the Ukraine and China. So Biden gave billions and billions of dollars to Zelensky, when it's a total illusion to ever think that you could win a war against Russia. If Putin, who is definitely a killer and not a good guy, he can, as he did with Tucker Carlson, he can explain for hours why he felt justified going in. But we know when he saw a cognitive mess like Joe Biden, who had dirt on his hands, he said, "This is the time. If I'm ever going to do it, now's the time." It is true that if President Trump had been reelected, the horror of the Ukrainian war would not have happened. It would have not have happened if Trump was reelected. So we have millions dead for no reason. And Trump is simply trying to negotiate peace. He's trying to negotiate peace. People die every day, and Putin has been very careful not to send tactical nukes into Kyiv, because that could drift into Poland, and then we're in World War III. He doesn't want World War III. He doesn't want World War III. So there has to be negotiations. And Zelensky got used to those billions of dollars coming in, and we don't know where half of it went. We do know, for the most part, it's been wasted, because the Ukraine, just like Gaza, unfortunately, is a bombed-out shell for the most part. So we get berated for loving America and not wanting it to be put in the hands of Kamala Harris, who was obviously totally unqualified. And who does she pick for VP? Tim Walz? Come on. We could see what was going on there. And you could too. You could too. So we made the choice that we wanted to make America great again, not send America into the abyss. And we're proud of what we did. We understand there'll be some rough times ahead sometimes as you try to correct course. And then I do believe there will be the golden age for America. If God should allow it, there will be another golden age, because God gave us another chance. Our part is to remember that he did that and to give him all the praise and glory for it. So that's my little video. Lincoln Project in a tizzy. We just don't care what the squad has to say. We understand exactly who Adam Schiff is, and Jeffries is, and Smelly Jerry Nadler, as they've been calling him lately, and Pelosi, and Jasmine Crockett. You're going to keep losing as long as you try to tell us that it's only raining. I'm not taking a tinkle on your head. It's just rain. It's just rain, you know. My personal email is jackthefairguy@gmail.com. Jack the F-A-I-R guy@gmail.com. Please hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more of these kind of things. And we will include clips, should there be an appetite for it in the future. Hit the like button. That's very important as well. The notification bell. If you can, hit the thanks button. At 9,900 subscribers, I'm a small fish in a very big pond. But we have a core audience, not necessarily an audience that will be attracted to this video, but we have a core audience that is extremely loyal. And so it's a family, and we do a program called Worldwide Ramblings on Wednesday and Saturday nights, the live stream. at 10 p.m. Eastern. If you're respectful, we'll keep you around. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. And check out our other videos here at the virtual church of the disillusioned. Bye-bye for now.